God is good, and with each day that passes brings us a day closer to the launch of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. This is the Nathan NAPALM channel, and if you are new here, please consider subscribing, especially if you're interested in Pantheon related content, Camelot Unchained, JRPGs, RPGs, all that kind of thing. Today I want to talk about the animation coming up when Pantheon enters into its next alpha stage, which will be pre-alpha 5. And I want to talk about that because we have the new newsletter, and in the new newsletter we do have some great little tidbits and information about how that's going. We do know that back in November they were able to acquire Ross Armstrong, who's got a very good track record in the animation department and is now working for Visionary Realms on the animations for the game. So let's first talk about something in the newsletter, which is Ross's role with Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. So basically, Mr. Ross says he's working closely with the creative director, the game designers, and the engineers to understand the quality objectives, the gameplay intentions, and define the appropriate animation style. So this will include blocking out animations, working with Chris Perkins and designers so that he can get the timing correctly to suit the flow of the gameplay and the abilities and so on. This will also require him to work with the engineers and the tech artists to refine the existing animation pipeline so he can lay the foundation so that as other animators come on board, they can get everything up and running quickly. Once he's able to get some other animators on board and they get things flowing real nice and smoothly, then he wants to be able to handle critiques, the scoping, the scheduling, and managing outsourcing and interdepartmental communications, and anything else dealing with animation. And as we all know, animation has been a big deal because all the animation that we've seen so far, as in the video you're looking at right now on the screen, has been placeholders. So all the animations we've had, as stated in the newsletter, came from multiple sources, but it was basically just placeholders, animations there just simply to have an animation, a very basic, crude animation in order just to kind of give it a basic idea of what's happening so the game is playable in some fashion. However, it's very clunky, it has some popping, and it's very stiff. And it's one of the things that I hear a lot of complaining about. As a matter of fact, when people complain about the graphics most of the time, I'm pretty sure at this point they're not actually talking about physically what the models look like. I think at this point they're complaining about the animation. To a lot of people, all that is one and one. It's all the same. So if the animation is bad, then the graphics are bad, and I can understand that. Now, as a very crappy animator myself, I kind of understand that you can have a really great drawing, right, or a really great model, and it look good, very good still. You know, when you get these frames and or screenshots and it looks wonderful, but then when it starts moving, no matter how good each individual drawing is, if the animation isn't good and fluid and look correct, then it doesn't matter how good the artwork is. So animation is key. It's very important. It's something that I think is the most defining factor as far as once they get this in place and they can start showing off some really cool animations, this game is going to launch off like a rocket. People are going to get so excited about it. So to me, it is one of the biggest things about development that I'd like to see get improved upon, and thankfully we have someone like Mr. Ross, who is now devoting all of his time and energy to this. I want to talk a little bit about what other things Mr. Ross has worked on in the past that has got him to this point where now he's animating for Pantheon. So it looks like he was the lead animator for Gods and Heroes Rome Rising, which I'm going to show some clips of that, which actually did have a very good animation. I mean, if you judge it on that alone, which is what we kind of have to do to talk about Mr. Ross, I think it was very good, and I think he did a great job. You had to be able to do from different angles and things. He talks about the left, the overhand, the right, the thrust, and the uppercut. and it ended up with hours worth of animation by the time they got to the end of the project. And he also was the lead animator for Marvel Heroes, and he does like to talk about that was a very stylized kind of animation, and Pantheon is going to end up being a lot more realistic, although that hasn't been completely confirmed. We can kind of know from the lore from the story background, from the Dungeons and Dragons kind of roots, that it probably is going to have a more realistic animation type. And that's the main thing he was working on. Now, he also mentions later in this newsletter that he also worked on Smurfs 2 on the animation for that, and he does mention something interesting where he's talking about the big difference between animating for film when compared to games is that, you know, when you're dealing with a film or a movie or anything like that, you're dealing with a fixed camera, so the viewer only sees it from the one angle. Now, when you're doing animation for a video game, you have to do it in 360 degrees. In other words, it has to look good from all angles. You can't get away with cheating or, you know, this kind of thing. You can't just say, well, we'll only have to animate the top half of the body because that's all the viewer's going to see, because in this case with the video game, they're going to see everything, and they can see it from all 360 degree angles. So it is very different, and I thought that was interesting that he mentioned that. Now, they ask him if he's planning on using motion capture, and he says that currently, right now, they're using a mix of both. They're using motion capture and hand-keyed animation. And he says the main reason for the use of the motion capture was to get things running quickly and get the animation going as fast as possible so that the designers could get started creating the game systems, and so that the engineers could flesh out the underlying technology to support the systems. Because they're still at a point as far as making the fleshing out or animating these abilities and different actions. It's still, you know, at a foundation level, and they're trying to build a solid foundation to begin with. So, but their eventual goal is to replace all of the motion capture animation with hand-keyed animation. So removing the motion capture hand-keyed hybrid will make it more cohesive, that fits with the game lore and the characters they're creating. If you read this entire Q&A, one thing I want to point out is you're going to notice that this guy's really into this. He really wants everything to be very smooth, very in line with the vision, and I just find it amazing that Visionary Realms, and I know it's probably easier when you have a smaller team to do this, but on other aspects it's very hard. So it's just amazing to me that they're able to continue finding talent and expand their team, and every single person they bring on has this great passion for the particular thing they're doing. You've got Justin doing the lore and the world building and just so into it, you know, like it's his entire life, and, you know, he's so detailed and just so passionate about it. Now we have this animator, and if you read the way he's answering these questions, he's so excited to be working on this project and be part of this team and making this game, because on the inside, he's seeing more than we see. He's seeing the passion around him. He's seeing the development process, how far it's came, how good it looks, how much love is going into it, and it's just a beautiful thing. Now, they ask him an interesting question. They ask him if it's a possibility that abilities are scrapped completely just because the animations can't be fit in to look right. And he says that is very rare, if ever, that the abilities don't get credit because animation is too challenging. The abilities are typically a joint effort between engineering and animation, the virtual effects team, that's driven by the design. So when they make up an ability, it usually comes down to a cost of how much time each department will have to spend creating it, so the design production assess if they want to proceed. So if a particular ability is too much, then the departments will collaborate, and they'll usually just find ways to author it more efficiently while still maintaining the design's original vision. So keeping that vision is very important to everything, all the way down to the animation, okay? Now, here's what we all want to hear. Is there going to be racial specific animations? And his answer is yes. Their intention is to have race-specific animations. For an example, dwarves and ogres should definitely move and fight differently than humans, for an example. So that's exciting to hear, because, you know, right now, like I say, we just have placeholders, so everybody has the same animation for every attack they do. However, they are going to do race-specific animations, so each race will move and flow differently. You know, we will have weight behind that ogre. We'll have more fluid animation for an elf or a gnome. We'll have doors kind of stockier, you know, all that kind of animation, because their limbs are different sizes, their body weights, their mass, everything is different. And of course, you also take into effect that they all have their own cultures and different ways of life change the way people move and are animated. So I think that's very exciting. I think that's really cool to hear. And then he does also talk about that after they get done with the playable characters, they are going to go in and start animating the NPCs and the wildlife and that kind of thing. Now currently, here we get a little snippet of what's going on the inside. Currently they're focused mainly on the human race, but then they will get to a point in production where they will be animating NPCs and the other races simultaneously. So it sounds like to me that what they'll be doing is the human will be the base animation, and then they tweak that for the other races. So just add a little bit of flair, a little bit of difference as you're dealing with the other races, and the humans just being the baseline, the basic animation pattern. They also ask Mr. Ross what's his most fun aspect of his job at Visionary Realms. And his reply is he loves the opportunity to collaborate with the disciplines involved in the game production. So design, production, engineering, the virtual effects, and audio. And he loves the fact that he has to work with the design and other creative folks to produce the animation and for it to be realized in the vision of the game. And he said in addition to the animation itself, he also enjoys the technicalities of setting up an efficient pipeline, scoping, scheduling, and everything else that comes along with that. Now keep in mind, this guy's on the inside, and they do ask him what's your favorite zone, and he does say Ferret Hell. He says it's coming along really nicely, and he loves the concept for it. And finally, the final question does ask him if there's anything else he'd like the Pantheon fans to know about him. And he says that Visionary Realms is a great team of folks that are working hard to create an awesome game. That there's been a lot of hard work and passion put into it, and it's really obvious to him. And he's really glad to be part of Pantheon. So guys, basically the information that we got here on the animation is that it is progressing, it's moving along, they're working on the humans as a basic animation guideline, and then they can tweak that when moving forward with other races in the world, NPCs, and everything. Now we also can glean from this that they're preparing for more animators to come on board. So that's interesting to hear that they're still going to be expanding the team throughout 2019, it sounds like. And animation is a huge part of what we're going to see, what we're going to experience in the game, how we feel playing the game, how each ability impacts and gives weight and value to the actual numbers that it's producing. So it's very important, and I think right now in the development cycle that Pantheon's currently in, that the animation is the most important part. And I would also like to point out something here. Keep in mind that we're still in pre-alpha with Pantheon, and I love that Pantheon is going the old school route where they're actually testing the game and releasing and producing it in such a way that at the point we're at right now, it looks and feels the way that it does already. And I'm not knocking other games, it's not what I do here on the channel. As a matter of fact, I'm very excited about the game I'm about to mention. I talk about it a lot on the channel. But if you compare Camelot Unchained, which has been in production much longer, and also is in beta 1 right now, whereas Pantheon's in pre-alpha, well, about to enter 5, but we haven't seen pre-alpha 5, so we've only seen pre-alpha 4 so far. And to be honest, if putting those side by side, I've got to admit that Pantheon's definitely looking further along than Camelot Unchained. And Camelot Unchained technically should be launching before Pantheon. I don't know if it will, though. I don't know, because Pantheon looks like it's further in development. Of course, you know, there's a lot more technically to Pantheon because it's this massive living, breathing PvE world, whereas Camelot Unchained is more of a PvP building type of, RBR style game, so they don't have to do all the questing and the intricate systems like that. However, PvP is really hard to pull off, especially the way they're doing it, so I don't know, but just looking at it and getting a general idea by paying attention to what they look like, what they, the flow of the game, that kind of thing. I mean, Pantheon seems to be leagues ahead, and it's only in pre-alpha, so I just think that's a testament. And I'm not knocking Camelot Unchained. They have their own team and their own disciplines and their own way of doing things. All I'm saying is this is a testament to Pantheon Rise of the Fallen and how great this team actually is and how it's all coming together. I'm just so excited. It's insane. So anyway, guys, I've rambled on enough. I hope you gleaned some good information about that. I hope you're excited about the animation and being able to see that, and hopefully, you know, when we do enter pre-alpha 5, which we don't know when that will be yet, but when it does happen, hopefully what we see is a big improvement on these animations, something we can visually and break down and look at and see Ross's work, and I believe that will definitely be the case. So guys, thank you for coming and checking this video out. I hope you enjoyed the newsletter. I'll drop a link down below to get to it if you haven't read it already. Not a whole lot of information. They kind of break down all of 2018, everything that happened. They kind of go into what they're working on now, which is pre-alpha 5, their next build, Bear Hell, all this kind of thing. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and share this video in your social media accounts so that we can grow this channel some. And thank you very much. God bless and happy gaming. But please just subscribe. I can't even describe being part of my tribe. I'll even offer you a prize, but just please just subscribe and hit the bell notification too.